Okay, for today's lesson, this is actually going to be lesson 5.3. So we're just going to call this lesson 5.3. Okay, so for this one, we're going to work on solving equations that have radicals in them. So you'll see square roots, cube roots, fourth roots, etc. in the problems with an equal sign. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to get the side that has the radical all by itself first. Okay, so if I look at example number 1 here. Pretend like you're solving a regular equation. You always want to get rid of your adding or subtracting number first. So I see this -1 behind the square root, so we always want to get rid of that number first. So I would start by adding the 1 over. So then I would have 2 times the square root of x plus 5 equals 4. And then you cannot have any coefficient in front of the square root radical. And if you notice a while ago, I said any number in front was like saying 2 times the radical. So in order to get rid of the coefficient, you would divide it away. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So then I would get the square root of x plus 5 equals 2. Now, once you have the radical by yourself, then you need to determine, well, what gets rid of a radical. So what we're going to do, kind of sidebar, I'll just write this off to the side, you don't have to write this down, is we're going to go backwards from what we have done in the past. So for example, if I said x squared equals 4, how would you get rid of a power of 2? And hopefully you would say, oh, I would get rid of a power of 2 by doing a square root. Because square root means the little index number is 2, so the little index number and the power number would match and they would cancel each other out. So now we're going to take this philosophy and go backwards. So if you have a root, to get rid of a root, you would use a power. Because if we had a power, we used a root. So now we're going to go backwards. So if you have a root, you will use a power to get rid of it. So if I have a square root, then you need to think, oh, that means its little index number is 2. They don't ever write it there, but I know its little index number is 2. And the power should match its index number. So that means I should do a power of 2 on both sides. So then the power of 2 and the index number, these cancel out, which just leaves me with x plus 5 on the front side. Equals, and then 2 squared is 4. Now solve this like a regular equation, so subtract 5, and x equals -1. Now you will notice it does say up here in the directions, we do need to check for extraneous solutions, which means we need to make sure that when we check this, that it does actually work out. So in your calculators, what I would do is I would type this in. So I'm going to go back to the original problem, and I would type in 2, and then hit your square root key. So 2, and then I would do square root key. And then it might open a parentheses, I think. If not, you could open a parentheses, but I'm pretty sure it does. And then we're going to type in our answer for x, which was -1. And then the rest of the problem says plus 5. And that's all that's under the root. So close your parentheses. and then minus 1. Okay, and when you hit equals, okay, does your calculator say it equals 3? Yes or no? If your calculator says it equals 3, then we would say yes, this checks out. If it says it equals anything other than 3, then we would say it does not check out, and we would write no solution because it did not work. So no solution if it fails. All right, let's go to the next one. I don't see any plus or minus number behind it, so I don't have to add or subtract anything over, but I do see a number in front. So any number in front, we divide that away. So divide, boom, divide, boom. So I have the third root of x minus 1 equals 2. And then to get rid of a third root, I look, my index number is 3. So that means I'm going to do a power of 3 to both sides. So then I have x minus 1 equals, and then remember on your calculator you can do 2 caret key 3, 2 roof of the house 3, which gives you 8. And then you're going to add the 1 over, and 8 plus 1 is 9. So then we're going to go back to our calculator and we're going to type this in. Okay, so we're going to go 4 times, and then now we don't have a square root, we have a third root. So to type this in, you're going to have to hit 3 and then your X root button, and then open your parentheses and do 9 minus 1 and see if it equals 8. Now, if you're going to use a graphing calculator instead of this X root button, okay, on a graphing calculator, you could go to the math key, and if you go to the math key, underneath it, I think it's number 4. Let me look real fast and make sure before I tell you that. But yeah, if you have a graphing calculator, you go to the math key, and then number 4 says cube root, so you just hit enter and then the cube root pops up for you. So you could just get cube root that way if you don't want to do the X root button, if you're not using a little calculator. Okay. So 9 does check out. This one does give you 8 when you type it in. So 9 is our answer. Boom. Okay, C, you'll notice this one that you have a fourth root on both sides. So you could be like, oh, Ms. Meyer, I can't get the root by itself because there's one on both sides. Well, if you have a root on both sides, then that's fine, because you'll notice that it's the same root. And you're just going to be like, well, it's the same root, so it doesn't matter which one I choose. It's both the fourth root, so I'm just going to get rid of it by putting a power of 4. Oh, that's a random line there. Sorry, didn't mean to draw that random line. So then we're just going to start by putting a power of 4 on both sides. So then I would just put power of 4 on both sides. And then that will just cancel out the fourth root on both sides, so you just get what's underneath. So 6x minus 4 equals 2x plus 10. And now we just solve this like a regular equation. So I'm going to move my x over to the left side. So that will give me 4x minus 4 equals 10. And then I'm going to move my plane number over. So I'm going to add 4. So then I get 4x equals 14. And then if I divide this, I will come up with a decimal, which is okay. No big deal. I get 3.5. So now on my calculator, this one I would do For fourth root, I would have to do 4 and then x root, and then parentheses 6 times 3.5 minus 4. And then I'm going to have to do the other side because this one doesn't equal just a plain number, so I'll have to do the same thing. And then I want to see if these two sides give me the exact same answer. Okay, and when I type them in, I believe I'm just going to round off the decimal. It does give me 2.03 on each one. Now, if you're using the graphing calculator, once again, you can go to the math key, and the X root button is number 5. So you would do 4, and then you do math key, and then you would choose number 5, and then that would make it the fourth root, and then you would do the parentheses and the rest of it. So this one does check out. We are good to go. All right, the last two then. So on this one, the square root of x minus 6 is already by itself, so I don't have to move anything, and there's no number in front of it, so I don't have to divide. So I could just be like, oh, well, let's just start by getting rid of the square root. So I'm just going to do a power of 2. Whoops, why did my paper move? Sorry. So then we're just going to do power of 2 on both sides. And then this is where it gets interesting, because when I have x minus 8 squared, that does not mean square x, square 8. No, no, no. What x minus 8 to the power of 2 means is take it times itself. So you want to think of it as x minus 8 times x minus 8, which means I have to multiply that with a box. Okay, the other side, the power of 2 and the root cancel out, so that side's easy. But the front side, you're going to have to make a box. So make yourself a little box, and then we're going to multiply these together. So x squared minus 8x minus 8x and positive 64. So x squared, combine your like terms, minus 16x plus 64 equals x minus 6. And now because you have a power of 2, you're going to have to move everything to the same side where the x squared is so that you can factor. So now I'm going to move my x over, line it up under its like term, and then I'm going to move my negative 6 over by adding it, and add it under its like term as well. So then I get x squared minus 17x plus 70 equals 0. And then we get to fast factor because it's a 1x squared. So what multiplies for positive 70 that adds for negative 17? And hopefully everybody goes, oh, I know, that would be a negative 10 and a negative 7. Now remember, when you're solving, after you've factored it, when you're solving, you're going to flip the signs. So you're going to say x equals positive 10 and x equals positive 7. Now we do have to go back and check each answer. So I'm going to start with 10 first. So go back to the original problem. 10 minus 8 is 2. And on the other side, square root of 10 minus 6. 10 minus 6 is 4, and the square root of 4 is 2. So this one's good. I got 2 on both sides, so that's good. 7. If I plug in 7, 7 minus 8 is negative 1. On the other side, I would have the square root of 7 minus 6. 7 minus 6 is 1, and the square root is 1, -1 and +1 are not the same thing, so this one does not work. This one fails because I didn't get the same answer on both sides. So the only answer you would circle is 10. Okay, so technically you should pause the video and try E by yourself because it is the same thing as D. I'm going to go work it out. When you are done, unpause it and see if you get it right.